There is something most men over 60 have never been told clearly. It is not that you are getting weaker because of age. It is not that you can no longer build muscle. And it is definitely not that losing belly fat is too late. The truth is, most of what you believe about nutrition after 60 is built on a wrong assumption. You were taught that you must choose one, either build muscle or lose fat. You cannot do both at the same time. But modern science says the opposite. Some metabolic studies show that older men, especially those returning to training after long periods of inactivity, have a greater ability to achieve body recomposition than younger men when the right strategy is applied. Not worse. Better. The problem is, almost no one tells you how to do it correctly. And this is where everything begins to change. Part 1. Body recomposition after 60, a misunderstood advantage. Most men begin their training journey after 60 with a quiet belief, I just need to lose weight. They look at their belly, at the number on the scale, and think the only mission is to eat less. But that is the first mistake. Your body does not just need to be lighter. It needs to be rebuilt. Body recomposition is not a concept reserved for the young. It happens when three conditions exist at the same time. You maintain a moderate calorie deficit, you consume enough protein, and you create muscular stimulus through resistance training. In men over 60, there is a unique advantage that very few people realize. Your muscles have not been sufficiently stimulated for many years. That makes them more sensitive when you start training again. This is what science calls muscle memory and adaptive responsiveness. In other words, with the right signal, your body responds more strongly than you expect. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that men over 60 who had been previously inactive, when starting resistance training combined with a high-protein diet, were able to gain muscle and lose fat within 8 weeks. No bulking, no cutting, just the right signal. But the problem is, most people never create the right nutritional environment from the beginning. They start by cutting food, and that is when the body begins to fight back. Part 2. Caloric sweet spot, the 0.90% of men get wrong. Imagine you decide to make a serious change. You reduce your portions, skip dinner, cut carbohydrates. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction. In the first 2 weeks, the weight drops, but then something strange happens. Your muscles start to feel softer, you feel weaker. Training becomes harder. And even though your weight is going down, your body looks softer instead of more defined. This is not failure. This is physiology. When you cut calories too aggressively, your body activates a survival mechanism called gluconeogenesis. It begins converting amino acids from muscle into glucose to maintain energy. Simply put, your body is eating your own muscle. For men over 60, this happens faster because anabolic hormones like testosterone and insulin, like growth factor 1, have declined compared to before. So the solution is not to eat less. It is to eat more precisely. The sweet spot lies in a very small deficit, around 200 to 300 calories below your daily maintenance level. Not 500, not 700. Just enough to send a fat-burning signal, but not enough to make your body panic. At the same time, protein becomes non-negotiable. At least 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. This is the minimum threshold supported by research to preserve muscle in a calorie deficit. Every gram you fall short is one step closer to losing muscle. And when you lose muscle, you do not just become weaker. You slow down your entire metabolism. This is why many people lose weight but gain fat back even faster. They did not lose fat, they lost muscle. And the next part will explain how to control a factor even more important than calories. Part 3. Carb cycling, controlling insulin instead of fearing it. Carbohydrates have been misunderstood for many years. One side says they are the cause of belly fat. The other says they are essential for energy and performance. Both are right, but only when used correctly. The problem is not whether you eat carbohydrates or not. The problem is timing and biological context. Your body does not process nutrients the same way every day. It changes depending on whether you train or not. This is the foundation of carb cycling. On training days, your body becomes more insulin sensitive. This means when you eat carbohydrates, they are more likely to be directed into muscle rather than stored as fat. This is when you need carbohydrates. Around 2.5 to 3 grams per kilogram of body weight, focused around your training window, from sources like oats, sweet potatoes, and brown rice. On the other hand, on rest days, energy demand decreases and insulin sensitivity shifts. This is when you reduce carbohydrates to around 0.5 to 1 gram per kilogram and shift the focus toward protein and healthy fats. This approach creates a dual effect. Training days feed muscle. Rest days burn fat. Research from the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition shows that distributing carbohydrates in cycles like this leads to better improvements in body composition compared to consuming a fixed amount of carbohydrates every day. You do not need to eliminate carbohydrates. You need to control them, and when you do that correctly, your body begins to shift from a storage mode into an optimization mode. But there is still one invisible factor that most people overlook, something that can quietly destroy all your efforts without you even realizing it. Part 4. The inflammatory environment, the silent saboteur. You can do everything right, consume enough protein, train consistently, control your calories, but if your body is in a state of chronic inflammation, all of that effort gets canceled out. Low-level inflammation does not cause obvious pain, but it operates quietly inside. It reduces insulin signaling in muscle, making it harder for nutrients to enter muscle and easier to be stored as fat. It activates protein breakdown, causing muscle to be lost more quickly. And most importantly, it lowers testosterone. This is a biological chain reaction, not a feeling. And your diet is the switch that controls it. Certain foods can reverse this environment. Fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines provide omega-3 fatty acids that reduce inflammatory cytokines and at the same time improve muscle protein synthesis. Turmeric combined with black pepper increases the absorption of curcumin, a compound widely studied for its anti-inflammatory effects. Leafy greens provide magnesium and nitrates that help improve blood flow to muscle. Extra virgin olive oil contains oleocanthal, which works through a mechanism similar to some anti-inflammatory drugs but without negative effects on the stomach. On the other hand, refined vegetable oils, added sugars, and refined grains are the things that sustain inflammation. You are not just eating for energy. You are setting the biological environment inside your body, and when that environment shifts from working against you to supporting you, results begin to appear faster than you expect. But there is still one final piece, a factor that can double the effectiveness of this entire system. Part 5. Nutrient timing, eating at the right time. Not just the right amount. Most people think that eating enough is enough, but your body does not work that way. It responds differently to the same food depending on when you eat it. After training, your body enters a state called the anabolic window. This is when it is most ready to absorb nutrients to rebuild muscle at the highest level. If you miss this window, you do not lose the opportunity completely, but you lose maximum efficiency. A simple but extremely powerful structure includes 4 key moments about 1 hour before training. You provide complex carbohydrates and protein to ensure the body has energy and to reduce muscle breakdown during the workout. Immediately after training, within 30 to 45 minutes, You provide fast-absorbing protein rich in leucine, along with fast carbohydrates to fully activate muscle protein synthesis. A few hours later, you eat a balanced meal with anti-inflammatory foods to maintain the recovery environment. And before sleep, you consume slow-digesting protein such as casein to support muscle throughout the night. Research shows that consuming casein before sleep can increase overnight protein synthesis by more than 20% in older adults. This is not a small detail. This is a cumulative advantage over time. And when you put all of these elements together, a complete system begins to form. It is not about eating less. It is not about eating more. It is about eating the right way, at the right time, with the right signals. There is a moment that most men after 60 go through. They look at themselves and wonder why they have tried so hard, but nothing seems to change. It is not because they lack discipline. It is not because they are not working hard enough. It is because they are applying a system that is no longer designed for their body. You are not 30 anymore, and that is not a weakness. It is a completely different biological context with different rules. When you understand it correctly, everything starts to become much simpler. You do not need to eat so little that you feel exhausted. You do not need to eliminate carbohydrates completely. You do not need to train like a professional athlete. You just need to set the right signals, a calorie level precise enough that your body does not panic, a protein intake high enough to protect and build muscle, a flexible carbohydrate strategy based on training days and rest days, an anti-inflammatory nutritional environment instead of maintaining chronic inflammation, and a meal schedule aligned with your body's biological rhythm. That is all. It sounds simple, but consistency in these simple things is what most people never maintain long enough to see real results. Your body does not respond to one meal. It responds to a chain of signals repeated every day, and when that chain of signals becomes clear enough, stable enough, long enough, your body has no choice but to adapt. That is when you begin to see muscle return. That is when your waist starts to shrink without force. That is when you feel stronger, lighter, and back in control of your body again. Not because you are lucky, but because you are finally playing by the right rules. If you have made it this far, one thing is clear. You do not need more motivation. You need a clear system you can apply starting tomorrow. So start simple. Pick one of the 5 principles in this video and apply it for the next 7 days. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Then come back and add the second principle, then the third. Do not try to do everything at once. That is the fastest way to quit. Build it like a system. If you want me to go deeper into each part, from how to calculate calories precisely, to how to plan a full week of meals, to how to structure your eating schedule, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because what you have just seen is only the foundation. The next step is turning it into a specific plan, day by day, meal by meal. And if you know a man who is trying to change his body but is still stuck in the same loop, send him this video. Sometimes, what he is missing is not effort. It is the right information. Your strongest body is not in your past. It is being built one meal at a time. And this time, you are not guessing. You are following science.